8 members, 1 leader, and a question most groups would never dare to answer publicly. Bang Chan, the man who built Stray Kids from the ground up on a survival show in 2017, sat down and did something that would make most K-pop leaders break into a cold sweat. He ranked his own members by loyalty, not talent, not popularity, not stage presence. Loyalty, the one trait you can't fake, can't rehearse, and can't manufacture for a camera. Stray Kids debuted under JYP Entertainment in 2018 with 8 members who chose each other before the industry chose them. And that origin story matters here, because when Bang Chan talks about loyalty, he's not reading from a script handed to him by a company. He's speaking from years of shared trainee debt, creative fights over song production at 3 in the morning, a public member controversy that nearly broke the group, and a bond that somehow held through all of it. So who landed at the top of his list, and more importantly, who didn't? And what does it tell us about what really happens inside one of the biggest groups in the world when the cameras stop rolling?
Number 7, Seungmin. When Bang Chan placed Kim Seungmin at the 7th spot on his loyalty ranking, it wasn't a verdict about betrayal or indifference. It was an acknowledgement of something far more nuanced. Seungmin operates on a completely different wavelength from the rest of Stray Kids, and that difference is precisely what makes him irreplaceable. Born on September 22, 2000, in Seoul, Seungmin didn't walk into the idol world chasing a childhood fantasy of stage lights and screaming fans. His path to JYP Entertainment started with Day 6. He's spoken openly, across multiple interviews and Stray Kids content, about how watching Day 6, and specifically admiring Young K, planted the seed that made him want to become a performer. That origin story matters because it reveals something fundamental about how Seungmin makes decisions. He doesn't follow trends. He doesn't move because everyone around him is moving. He acts on genuine conviction, and once he locks in, he doesn't waver. That trait shaped everything about who he became inside Stray Kids, and it's also the exact trait that landed him at this spot on the list. Seungmin auditioned for JYP Entertainment, made it through, and entered the trainee system. When the Stray Kids survival show launched on Mnet in 2017, he was among the trainees selected by Bang Chan for the team that would eventually become the group. Unlike Lee No and Felix, who both faced elimination during the show and had to fight their way back, Seungmin survived every single round. He wasn't the one making emotional speeches about Brotherhood. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room swearing undying devotion to the team. He showed up, did his part, focused on improving his vocals day after day, and let his work ethic communicate what words never could. That pattern, quiet, grinding consistency over grand emotional gestures, became the single most defining feature of Seungmin's entire tenure in Stray Kids. And it's a pattern that, depending on how you define loyalty, either makes him the most reliable member in the room or the hardest one to read. Inside the group dynamic, Seungmin earned a reputation that might confuse anyone looking in from the outside. Stray Kids fandom knows him as the savage member, the one who will roast you directly to your face and not lose a second of sleep over it. He teases I.N relentlessly. He calls out members when they're being ridiculous. He doesn't wrap criticism in layers of diplomatic language, doesn't sugarcoat feedback, and doesn't pretend something is great when it clearly isn't. In a K-pop industry built on carefully managed public images and choreographed emotional moments, Seungmin's bluntness borders on radical. And this is exactly where the loyalty question gets complicated. Because in an industry where loyalty is often performed, through tearful acceptance speeches, public declarations on live broadcasts, and carefully timed social media posts, Seungmin flat out refuses to perform anything. What you see is what he genuinely thinks. That level of raw honesty, while deeply valuable to anyone paying attention, doesn't always register as loyalty on the surface. It reads as detachment. It reads as someone who doesn't care enough to play the game. But that reading is wrong. Bang Chan, as a leader who has spent years living, creating, and traveling with every member at impossibly close range, understands the distinction between performing loyalty and actually practicing it. But even he has acknowledged that Seungmin's independent streak sets him apart from the pack. Seungmin is the member most comfortable being alone. He doesn't require constant group interaction to feel grounded or validated. He has his own world outside of Stray Kids, his well-documented obsession with baseball, particularly his devotion to the Doosan Bears, occupies a space in his life entirely separate from music. He follows games, knows players, and discusses baseball with the same detailed enthusiasm that his groupmates reserve exclusively for producing tracks and perfecting choreography. He reads. He maintains personal routines that exist independently of group schedules. None of this makes him disloyal in any meaningful sense. It makes him self-sufficient. And self-sufficiency, in a team environment where emotional interdependence is treated as the default, can be easily misread as emotional distance by those who aren't paying close enough attention. What gets overlooked in conversations about Seungmin is how his vocal development tells a story of dedication that never needed an audience. When Stray Kids debuted in March 2018 with District 9, the group's identity was rooted firmly in rap-heavy, production-driven tracks shaped by three Racha, the producing trio of Bang Chan, Changbin, and Han. Seungmin, positioned as a vocalist in a group whose early sound leaned aggressively into rap and hard-hitting instrumental arrangements, could have felt sidelined. The spotlight, by design, wasn't built for him in those early releases. Instead of complaining, instead of lobbying publicly for more center time or more lines, Seungmin did something that doesn't generate fan edits or trending hashtags. He trained harder. Over the span of multiple albums and years of releases, his vocal trajectory became one of the most quietly impressive growth arcs in the entire group. His tone refined. His control sharpened. His range expanded. And when Stray Kids' musical identity eventually evolved to give vocalists more prominent space in their discography, Seungmin was ready, because he had never once stopped preparing for that moment, even when no one was watching. There's a specific dynamic between Seungmin and Bang Chan that illuminates why this ranking position is more complex than it appears. Bang Chan has said across various live sessions that he values honest feedback from his members above almost anything else. He doesn't want to lead a group of people who agree with everything he says. He wants to be challenged. He wants to hear when something isn't working. Seungmin provides that function within Stray Kids more consistently and more unflinchingly than any other member. When Seungmin pushes back on a creative decision or says something isn't landing, there's no hidden agenda behind it, no political maneuvering, no personal grudge. He means it. And Bang Chan knows he means it. That kind of functional, unfiltered honesty is a form of loyalty that doesn't make highlight reels. It doesn't trend on social media. It doesn't generate compilation videos with emotional background music. But it keeps the group's creative standards honest, and that has tangible value that outlasts any single tearful moment on camera. The paradox of Seungmin's position at number 7 is that the very qualities that placed him here, his fierce independence, his refusal to perform emotions he doesn't feel, his comfort with solitude, his uncompromising bluntness, are also qualities that make Stray Kids structurally stronger as a unit. Every group needs someone who won't just absorb the mood of the room and reflect it back. Every team needs someone willing to say the uncomfortable thing when everyone else is nodding along. Seungmin fills that role without seeking credit, without framing it as sacrifice, and without ever once suggesting the group owes him something for his honesty. He just is who he is. And who he is, by every measurable standard, years of training, consistent performance growth, unwavering professional commitment through every era, is loyal. Just not in the way this industry typically rewards or recognizes. But here's what separates the bottom of this list from the middle: the higher you climb, the more personal the stories become. The more the history cuts deep. The more you start dealing with moments that could have fractured Stray Kids permanently. Seungmin's loyalty is steady, clean, and uncomplicated. The member sitting at number 6? Their loyalty had to survive something far more isolating, and the way they carried it, without ever once asking for recognition, changed how everyone in that group understood what it truly costs to care in silence. Number 6. Lee No. If Seungmin's loyalty is defined by what he says, Lee No's loyalty is defined entirely by what he doesn't. Lee Miho, born October 25, 1998, in Gimpo, South Korea, is the member of Stray Kids most likely to make you question whether he even likes the people around him, right up until the moment you realize he's been quietly holding everything together while no one was paying attention. Bang Chan placed him at number 6 on this ranking, and to understand why, you first have to understand a personality type that the K-pop industry was never designed to showcase, someone who cares deeply, consistently, and almost invisibly, with zero interest in being seen doing it. Lee No doesn't seek credit. He doesn't perform warmth for cameras. He operates on his own frequency, and if you're not tuned in, you'll miss it completely. Before Lee No ever became a JYP Entertainment trainee, he was already a working professional in the entertainment industry. He had real experience as a backup dancer, performing on actual stages and learning the mechanics of live performance long before he stepped inside a trainee practice room. That background is significant because it means Lee No didn't enter the Stray Kids survival show in 2017 as a wide-eyed teenager encountering the industry for the first time. He came in with a practical, unsentimental understanding of how the machine works, the politics, the relentless pressure, the disposability of talent in a system that manufactures new faces every single quarter. He understood exactly what the stakes looked like. He'd already tasted what it meant to be a small part of someone else's stage. And that existing knowledge made what happened to him next cut far deeper than most people realize. During the Stray Kids survival show on Mnet, Lee No was eliminated. Not sidelined, not given a warning, not placed on probation, eliminated. Cut entirely from the team that Bang Chan was building from the ground up. In that moment, a trainee with less internal resolve would have accepted the decision as final and walked away. The K-pop trainee system is engineered to make you internalize rejection as a personal failing, to convince you that if you weren't chosen, it's because you fundamentally weren't good enough, and the only appropriate responses are to either start over at a different company or abandon the path altogether. Lee No chose neither option. He didn't release public statements about the unfairness of the decision. He didn't campaign on social media for sympathy or a second chance. He didn't perform his devastation for anyone's consumption. He waited. And when the opportunity came to return, when Bang Chan pushed hard for the eliminated members to be brought back into the lineup, Lee No walked back into that practice room and picked up exactly where he left off, as though the entire elimination had been nothing more than a brief, inconvenient intermission. No visible grudge. No demand for acknowledgement. No performance of healing. Just immediate, focused, silent work. That moment established something about Lee No that has remained remarkably consistent for every single year since Stray Kids debuted in March 2018 with their first EP, I Am Not. He does not process his emotions publicly. He does not seek validation from an audience for the hardships he endures behind closed doors. And he categorically does not weaponize personal pain as content. In an era where K-pop idols are increasingly expected to be emotionally transparent on camera at all times, to cry during live broadcasts, to narrate their mental health journeys in real time, to perform vulnerability as an ongoing form of fan service, Lee No's flat refusal to participate in that cycle is simultaneously refreshing and, for anyone attempting to rank him on something as emotionally loaded as loyalty, genuinely difficult to evaluate. How exactly do you measure the devotion of someone who will absolutely never tell you how devoted they are? How do you rank something you can't see unless you already know where to look? The answer, for those patient enough to find it, lives in the details that rarely make highlight compilations. Lee No is the member who cooks for the group. Not as an occasional variety show segment, not as a one-time content bit designed to trend on social media, but as a consistent, real-life practice within their shared living space. He prepares meals for the members. He's particular about doing it well. He takes care of the people around him through the most basic, unglamorous, and fundamentally human form of service imaginable, feeding them. He's also the group's devoted cat father, raising 3 cats named Suni, Dunji, and Dory, and the way he talks about those cats reveals infinitely more about his emotional depth than any scripted interview response ever could. The guardedness drops. The deadpan mask dissolves. You see someone with an enormous, almost tender capacity for love that he simply elects not to broadcast to the wider world. His affection within the group follows the exact same blueprint, sudden, physical, catching people completely off guard. A hand landing quietly on someone's shoulder during a tense moment. A random back hug delivered without warning or explanation. A piece of food placed silently on a member's plate when they're too exhausted to notice who put it there. Lee No does not announce that he cares. He demonstrates it through gestures so small, so fleeting, that you would miss every single one if you were sitting around waiting for a grand declaration. As Stray Kids' main dancer, Lee No's professional loyalty is etched into hours that nobody ever thinks to count. Dance is arguably the most physically punishing discipline in the entire idol system, and maintaining the level of precision, stamina, and sheer physical control that Lee No delivers across every performance, from weekly music show stages to sold-out world tour arenas, requires a daily commitment that simply doesn't receive the same public recognition as writing a song or producing a track. Choreography gets rehearsed until it lives permanently in muscle memory. Formations are drilled until every transition looks effortless and invisible. Lee No has carried this physical responsibility across every single era of Stray Kids' discography, from the aggressive, confrontational energy of their early releases to the more complex, layered, and theatrically ambitious performances that defined their later work, and he has done it with a mechanical consistency that only becomes truly visible when you try to imagine the group performing without him. The formations would collapse. The stage dynamics would shift entirely. The physical identity of Stray Kids' live shows, widely regarded as one of their strongest competitive edges in the industry, would be fundamentally, irreversibly altered. Bang Chan placing Lee No at number 6 is not a criticism and was never intended as one. It is an honest reflection of a simple reality. Lee No's loyalty exists in a register that doesn't translate cleanly into rankings or lists. He is loyal the way a foundation is loyal to the building standing on top of it. You forget it exists because it never once asks to be noticed, but the moment it disappears, everything above it falls apart. His fierce independence, his emotional privacy, his stubborn refusal to perform feelings for public consumption, none of these are evidence of distance from the group. They are the hallmarks of someone who decided long ago that loyalty is something you live through action, not something you narrate for applause. And he has lived it, quietly and without a single interruption, since the day he walked back into that practice room after the industry told him he wasn't enough. Now, if Lee No's loyalty is the type you have to search for to discover, the member sitting at number 5 carries a version of loyalty that is impossible to ignore, because it detonates in real time, in front of cameras, in front of thousands of people, and it erupts from a place so unguarded and so raw that even the person experiencing it can't always control when it breaks through the surface. Number 5 Han. The teaser at the end of Lee No's section wasn't exaggeration. Han Jisung's loyalty doesn't operate in the background. It doesn't hide behind quiet gestures or wait for the right moment to reveal itself. It hits in real time, unscheduled, unscripted, and frequently in front of rolling cameras, because Han is constitutionally incapable of containing what he feels. Born September 14, 2000, Han spent part of his school years living in Malaysia before returning to South Korea and eventually joining JYP Entertainment as a trainee. He arrived at JYP not merely as a performer but as a creator, a rapper, a vocalist, and a songwriter who could construct a full track from the ground up. That creative capacity caught Bang Chan's attention early, and it led directly to the formation of 3 Racha, the in-house production unit consisting of Bang Chan, Changbin, and Han that would become the creative engine behind virtually everything Stray Kids ever released. From their debut EP I Am Not through every era that followed, 3 Racha's fingerprints have been embedded in the group's entire discography. Han isn't just performing Stray Kids music on stage. He is engineering it, track by track, alongside Bang Chan and Changbin, investing hours into writing, composing, and arranging the songs that define how this group sounds to the world. That creative investment is already a form of loyalty that transcends simply showing up to rehearsals and memorizing choreography. When you write the songs your group performs, your identity fuses with the group's identity at a molecular level. Han's lyrics are not generic feel-good filler crafted to fill album space. Across Stray Kids' discography, he has written about pressure, self-doubt, the suffocating gap between external expectations and internal reality. Elevator, the pre-debut track that introduced Stray Kids to the public in 2017, carried a raw emotional transparency that established the group's creative DNA before they even officially debuted. Han's pen does not flinch from uncomfortable territory. He writes what he actually feels, and what he feels is frequently tethered directly to his lived experience as a member of this specific group, navigating this specific industry, shouldering this specific weight. Every lyric he contributes functions as an act of loyalty in its most literal and permanent form. He is handing over fragments of his internal world to a collective project, trusting that the people beside him will treat those fragments with the care they deserve. But any honest conversation about Han and loyalty has to address the reality that made his commitment to Stray Kids genuinely, measurably costly. Han has been open, far more open than most idols would ever risk being, about his long-standing struggles with anxiety and panic disorder. This is not a casual, palatable I get butterflies before big stages disclosure designed to humanize him for interviews. Han has experienced anxiety at a severity that has, at various documented points throughout his career, directly impacted his ability to perform. There have been moments where he had to step back from scheduled activities because his mental state made it physically impossible to stand on a stage and deliver what was expected of him. In an industry where showing up is the non-negotiable baseline, where idols routinely perform through injuries, chronic exhaustion, and illness because the machine does not pause for human frailty, Han's anxiety represented a vulnerability that could have derailed his entire career if he or the group had handled it with anything less than the care they did. Here is what makes Han's position on this loyalty ranking so deeply loaded. Staying in Stray Kids, for Han Jisung, is not the path of least resistance. It is not the comfortable, easy default. Every stage appearance, every packed arena show, every weekly music broadcast represents a conscious, active decision to walk directly into the precise environment that triggers his anxiety at its worst, and do it anyway. That is not stubbornness or recklessness masquerading as dedication. That is a form of loyalty so physically and psychologically demanding that anyone who hasn't lived with clinical anxiety at that level cannot fully grasp what it extracts from a person. When Han stands on a stage in front of tens of thousands of fans and delivers his verses with precision, energy, and charisma, he is not merely performing a set. He is choosing this group over his own comfort, over his body's loudest distress signals, over every internal alarm screaming at him to leave the situation immediately. And he makes that choice repeatedly, comeback after comeback, tour stop after tour stop, year after year, without ever framing it as martyrdom. What complicates the ranking, and what likely placed Han at 5 rather than higher, is that his emotional intensity, while profoundly genuine, operates on a frequency that can be unpredictable. Han feels everything at maximum volume. He cries openly during emotional group moments. He has been visibly overwhelmed on camera during fan meetings, award ceremonies, and group conversations that other members navigated with composure. His emotional responses are never calculated, never staged for effect. They are involuntary eruptions of feeling from someone who simply does not possess a working filter between his internal experience and his external expression. That rawness is precisely what Stay loves about him. But from a leader's vantage point, from Bang Chan's position of having to manage, protect, and guide 8 distinct personalities through the relentless, unforgiving machinery of a K-pop career, that emotional volatility introduces a specific kind of challenge. You cannot always predict when Han will need support. You cannot always anticipate the moment when something that feels routine to everyone else will hit Han with the force of a crisis. His loyalty is total and unquestionable, but it arrives packaged inside an emotional complexity that requires everyone around him to remain constantly, carefully attentive. The creative dynamic between Han and Bang Chan specifically illustrates why this ranking placement carries zero judgment. Bang Chan has been, by Han's own repeated acknowledgement across countless live broadcasts and interviews over the years, his emotional and creative anchor. As three Racha collaborators, they have spent thousands of collective hours together in studios, frequently working deep into the early morning, constructing the songs that became Stray Kids' public identity. Bang Chan has watched Han write lyrics at 3 a.m. that perfectly crystallized something the entire group was feeling but could not articulate. He has also watched Han fight through moments where the accumulated pressure of being an idol felt like it was physically compressing his chest. That level of proximity, creative, emotional, daily, inescapable, means Bang Chan's assessment of Han's loyalty is not built on surface-level observation or public perception. It is rooted in an intimate, first-hand understanding of exactly how much it costs Han to be here, and a clear-eyed recognition that despite that cost, despite every legitimate reason his anxiety hands him to walk away from all of it, Han keeps showing up. He keeps writing. He keeps producing. He keeps choosing this group, this life, this brutally demanding career, even on the days when every nerve in his body is begging him to stop. Han Jae-sung at number 5 is not a statement of insufficient loyalty. It is an acknowledgement that loyalty, when it must claw its way through clinical anxiety, emotional hypersensitivity, and the relentless physical toll of idle life just to exist, looks fundamentally different than loyalty that arrives without resistance. Han's loyalty is expensive. It costs him something tangible every single time he sets foot on a stage, and he pays that price willingly, without negotiation, without public complaint, and without ever once implying that the group owes him gratitude for what he sacrifices. The fact that he alchemized that struggle into music, into songs that millions of listeners across the world turn to when they are drowning in their own battles, is not merely loyalty to Stray Kids. It is loyalty to every human being who has ever needed proof that you can be genuinely terrified and still choose to keep going. But if Han's loyalty is defined by what he endures to remain, the member at number 4 brings something entirely different to the conversation, a loyalty forged not in crisis or pain but in the slow, quiet, almost stubborn process of growing up inside a group that never expected to need him as profoundly as it does right now. Number 4, I.N. When Bang Chan placed the youngest member of Stray Kids at the 4th spot on his loyalty ranking, he was pointing to a type of devotion that is often invisible because it is wrapped in youth and the deceptive label of the baby of the group. Born February 8, 2001, in Busan, South Korea, young Hyunjin entered Seoul's high-pressure entertainment industry at an age when most kids are worrying about school. Joining JYP Entertainment in 2016, he brought a bright smile and a passion for trot music that contrasted sharply with the aggressive, hip-hop-adjacent identity Bang Chan was assembling. During the 2017 survival show, I.N faced constant criticism from Park Jin-young, the founder of JYP Entertainment. He was told his vocals were unstable, his dance movements were awkward, and his signature smile felt forced under pressure. For a 16-year-old, this kind of public, televised critique could have been emotionally paralyzing. Yet, instead of breaking down or seeking pity from his older groupmates, I.N chose a path of quiet, stubborn resilience. He would stay up late in the practice rooms, repeating vocal exercises long after the other trainees had gone to sleep, determined to prove that he belonged in the lineup not as a charity case or a visual placeholder, but as a fully contributing member of the team. This early trial established the foundation of I.N's loyalty, which is defined by a refusal to let his own struggles burden the collective progress of Stray Kids. In K-pop group dynamics, the youngest member, or Mnet, is traditionally expected to show deference, perform cute acts for the camera, and accept the guidance of the older members. While I.N certainly received the protective affection of his hyungs, who frequently doted on him and treated him like a younger brother, he actively resisted becoming a liability. His loyalty manifested as a self-imposed discipline to grow up faster than normal. When Stray Kids debuted in March 2018 with District 9, I.N was still wearing braces, a physical detail that endeared him to fans but also served as a visual reminder of his youth. As the group embarked on their first international tours and faced the grueling schedule of multiple comebacks per year, I.N quietly transformed himself. He worked on his physical conditioning, building the stamina required to execute Stray Kids' notoriously intense choreography without faltering. He took private vocal lessons continuously, gradually shifting his vocal range from the nasal, trot-influenced style of his youth to a clean, stable, and resonant pop vocal that could anchor the group's choruses. By his 2021 graduation from the School of Performing Arts Seoul, where his fellow members supported him like proud parents, I.N was no longer just keeping up, he was a vital pillar of their performance. The unique nature of I.N's loyalty also lies in how he manages his emotional boundaries within the group. Known as the Magne on Top, a title solidified by a subunit song produced by Bang Chan, Changbin, and I.N himself, he exhibits an emotional maturity that belies his position as the youngest. He does not demand constant emotional attention, nor does he feed into the dramatic highs and lows of group life. Instead, I.N provides a stabilizing, down-to-earth presence that keeps the older members grounded. When the group faces high-stress situations, such as the intense preparation for the competition show Kingdom in 2021, I.N's calm demeanor and steady work ethic served as a quiet anchor. He is the member who will listen patiently to the older members' concerns without offering unsolicited advice or complicating the situation with his own ego. This ability to be a reliable sounding board is a rare form of loyalty in an industry where young artists are often overwhelmed by their own anxieties. His loyalty is not loud. It is the dedication of a young man who decided the best way to support his team was to become someone they never had to worry about. He took the responsibility of being in Stray Kids seriously, recognizing that his stability directly influenced the collective mood of the group, and he has maintained that stability with remarkable consistency throughout their career. Furthermore, I.N's relationship with Bang Chan highlights a deep, mutual respect that has grown over years of shared challenges. As the leader, Bang Chan has always carried a heavy burden, often absorbing the stress of the group's production, scheduling, and company relations. I.N has spoken in various behind-the-scenes contents and interviews about his awareness of this burden, expressing a desire to be a source of strength rather than another worry. This shows a sophisticated understanding of loyalty. It is not just about defending the group to the outside world, but about actively easing the load of the person leading the charge. During the production of Stray Kids music, I.N is known for his professional attitude in the recording studio. When working with 3RACHA, he accepts feedback constructively, adjusting his vocal delivery to match the vision of the track without letting personal pride get in the way. This professional dedication has allowed Bang Chan and the producers to experiment with different vocal textures, knowing that I.N will put in the necessary work to execute them successfully. His growth as an artist is directly tied to this attitude. He treats every recording session not just as a job, but as an opportunity to reinforce the musical foundation of Stray Kids. To fully appreciate I.N's loyalty, one must also look at how he handles the inevitable temptations of individual fame. As Stray Kids' popularity skyrocketed globally, individual opportunities for fashion ambassadorships, solo variety appearances, and independent projects began to emerge. While some idols might prioritize building their personal brand in anticipation of a future solo career, I.N has consistently kept his focus on group activities. When he participates in individual schedules, such as attending fashion shows or shooting solo pictorials, he frequently mentions the group and expresses how his solo work is ultimately intended to bring more attention to Stray Kids as a whole. This collective-first mindset is the ultimate indicator of his loyalty. He understands that the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. He does not seek to outshine his members. Instead, he uses his platform to elevate the group, showing a level of long-term vision that is rare for someone who grew up under the constant, distorting spotlight of global celebrity. His loyalty is a choice made daily, a commitment to remain humble, hardworking, and deeply connected to the brothers who helped raise him in the industry. In the grand scheme of Bang Chan's ranking, placing I.N at number 4 is a testament to the success of their collective upbringing. He is the youngest who grew up right, the member who took the raw potential of his youth and forged it into a reliable, unyielding loyalty that keeps Stray Kids structurally sound. He is the quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be felt, the foundation that remains steady when the storms of the industry blow their hardest. But as we move past the halfway mark of this loyalty ranking and enter the top 3, we leave behind the realm of quiet stability and enter a territory of absolute intensity. The member sitting at number 3 is someone whose loyalty was tested not in the quiet practice rooms or through the slow process of growing up, but in the absolute center of a public storm that threatened to tear the entire group's reputation to shreds, forcing them to make a choice that would define their future forever. Number 3, Hyunjin. When Bang Chan placed Hwang Hyunjin at the 3rd spot on his loyalty ranking, he was acknowledging a bond that was forged and tested under the intense heat of public scrutiny. Born on March 20, 2000, in Seoul, South Korea, Hyunjin's journey into the K-pop industry was not driven by a childhood dream of performance. He was scouted on the street by JYP Entertainment while shopping with his mother, a casting story that initially led some to label him as just another street-cast visual who would rely on his looks rather than actual skill. This label deeply bothered Hyunjin during his trainee days. He did not want to be a passive member of a group, he wanted to be respected for his talent. This internal drive pushed him to become one of the hardest-working dancers in the company, training long hours to master complex choreography and eventually earning the position of main dancer in Stray Kids. During the 2017 Mnet survival show, his passion was already evident, but his true test of loyalty and resilience would come years later, long after the group had established themselves as a global force. In February 2021, Hyunjin found himself at the center of allegations regarding his middle school years, a situation that occurred during a massive wave of public accusations targeting various Korean celebrities. In the highly sensitive environment of the Korean entertainment industry, such allegations can permanently end a career, and JYP Entertainment quickly announced that Hyunjin would halt all official activities to reflect on his past actions. This hiatus, which began in late February 2021, occurred at the worst possible time for Stray Kids. The group was just about to begin filming Mnet's highly anticipated competition show Kingdom, Legendary War, a high-stakes program that would determine their standing among their peers and shape their future trajectory. Suddenly, the group was forced to proceed as a 7-member unit, re-choreographing complex formations and re-recording vocal parts in the middle of an intense production schedule. For Hyunjin, sitting at home while his brothers fought on stage was a source of profound emotional distress. He was entirely isolated from the public, unable to communicate with fans or participate in the group's triumphs. In many K-pop narratives, a member facing this level of controversy and prolonged public absence might quietly prepare for an exit, or the company might decide that the group's reputation is better served by permanently removing the controversial member. However, Hyunjin's response to this crisis, and the group's response to him, demonstrated a level of mutual loyalty that is exceptionally rare in the corporate-driven world of K-pop. Instead of retreating from the group's identity, Hyunjin spent his hiatus working in silence. He dedicated himself to dance practice and personal reflection, refusing to let his physical absence sever his mental connection to Stray Kids. He also turned to painting, using visual art as an outlet for his emotions, creating works that reflected his internal struggle and his desire to return to the stage. Meanwhile, the remaining 7 members, led by Bang Chan, made it clear through subtle but deliberate actions that they were waiting for him. During their performances on Kingdom, the members frequently left empty spaces in their choreography or included symbolic gestures that fans interpreted as references to Hyunjin. Bang Chan, on his weekly live broadcast Chan's Room, continued to play music that featured Hyunjin's vocals and subtly reassured fans that the group's bond remained unbroken. This collective refusal to erase Hyunjin from their narrative was a high-risk strategy. It invited continued criticism from online detractors who demanded his permanent departure. But for Stray Kids, loyalty to their brother outweighed the potential public relations fallout. This reciprocal loyalty reached its climax in late June 2021, when JYP Entertainment released the music video for the digital single mixtape, OH, without any prior announcement. The sudden appearance of Hyunjin in the video, singing his lines with an emotional intensity that felt entirely unscripted, sent shockwaves through the fandom and marked his official return to the group. The lyrics of the song, which spoke of regret and the desire to hold on to a precious connection, mirrored Hyunjin's real-life experience, turning his personal return into a shared creative milestone for the entire group. Upon his return, Hyunjin did not take his place in the group for granted. He threw himself into the preparation for their August 2021 comeback album, No Easy, which featured the title track Thunderous. His performance in Thunderous was marked by an aggressive, almost desperate energy, as if he was using every ounce of his physical strength to prove that his place in Stray Kids was earned and non-negotiable. His loyalty was not just about returning to the group, it was about elevating them. He became increasingly involved in the creative process, writing and composing tracks like Red Lights, a duet with Bang Chan that explored themes of obsession and artistic pressure, and Taste, a subunit track with Lee No and Felix. These contributions allowed Hyunjin to express his artistic identity more fully, showing that his loyalty was not passive compliance but an active, creative contribution to the group's evolution. He also continued his charity work, making significant donations to organizations like the Snail of Love to support hearing-impaired children, translating his personal reflections into tangible social good. This maturity showed that he had not merely survived the storm, he had grown because of it. The relationship between Hyunjin and Bang Chan is particularly significant when examining this ranking. Bang Chan has always been a protective leader, but his support for Hyunjin during the 2021 crisis was a defining moment of his leadership. Hyunjin has frequently expressed his gratitude for Bang Chan's unwavering belief in him, describing the leader as someone who kept him anchored when everything else was falling apart. This mutual trust is why Hyunjin ranks so high on this list. His loyalty was not tested in comfortable times, but in the depths of a career-threatening controversy where the easiest path for everyone involved would have been to walk away. Hyunjin chose to stay, to fight, and to improve, while the group chose to wait for him, creating a bond that is now virtually indestructible. Today, Hyunjin stands as one of the most recognizable and influential members of Stray Kids, a global fashion icon for Versace and Cartier, and a performer whose stage presence is celebrated worldwide. Yet, despite the massive individual fame that has come his way, his primary dedication remains firmly with the group. He continues to prioritize group schedules over individual opportunities, showing that his commitment to Stray Kids is just as strong now as it was when he was practicing alone in the dark during his hiatus. In the context of the top 3, Hyunjin's placement at number 3 shows just how high the standard of loyalty is within Stray Kids. His loyalty survived a public exile and returned stronger, proving that a mistake or a setback does not have to define the end of a relationship if there is a genuine commitment to rebuild. But as we move to the top 2, we enter a realm of loyalty that goes beyond surviving external crises. The member sitting at number 2 is someone whose loyalty was tested by a physical and cultural barrier that would have defeated almost anyone else, a member who had to choose between the comfort of their home country and the grueling, uncertain path of an outsider, only to find that their loyalty to Bang Chan and the group was the only thing that kept them from losing their identity entirely. Number 2, Felix. When Bang Chan placed Lee Felix at the second spot on his loyalty ranking, he was pointing to a bond that began in a shared language and was tested by the absolute isolation of moving across the hemisphere. Born on September 15, 2000, in Sydney, Australia, Felix grew up in a comfortable English-speaking environment, far removed from the grueling, highly structured trainee system of South Korean entertainment. When he was scouted by JYP Entertainment and moved to South Korea in February 2017, he faced a massive language barrier. He could barely speak Korean, which made communicating with his trainers, staff, and fellow trainees an everyday struggle. For a teenager, leaving behind his family, friends, and everything familiar to pursue an uncertain dream in a foreign country was an immense sacrifice. Inside the JYP practice rooms, he found an anchor in Bang Chan, who, as a fellow Australian, understood the profound sense of displacement Felix was experiencing. Bang Chan took Felix under his wing, helping him translate instructions, navigate cultural nuances, and adjust to the intense training schedule. This shared connection laid the groundwork for a deep, brotherly loyalty, but that loyalty was almost immediately subjected to the ultimate test during the 2017 Stray Kids survival show. During the survival show, Felix's lack of Korean fluency became a critical vulnerability. In the 8th episode, after a performance of Yaya, Park Jin-young eliminated Felix from the lineup, stating that his language skills were not yet advanced enough to deliver rap parts effectively in live performances. The elimination was a crushing blow. Having abandoned his life in Australia, Felix was suddenly told he was not good enough, and he faced the very real prospect of returning home as a failure. The corporate machinery of K-pop does not normally offer second chances to eliminated trainees, and most would have packed their bags. Yet, Felix's loyalty to the dream Bang Chan had presented to him, and to the members he had trained with, kept him in Korea. Instead of returning to Sydney, Felix remained in Seoul, spending his days in the JYP practice rooms, studying Korean vocabulary and practicing dance routines for hours on end, even though he was no longer officially part of the group. This refusal to give up, even when the system had rejected him, was the first major demonstration of his unyielding commitment. When Bang Chan successfully lobbied for the eliminated members to return for a final live stage, Felix was ready. He rejoined the group, debuted with them in March 2018, and began the process of cementing his place in the group's musical identity. Over the years, Felix transformed his initial weaknesses into some of Stray Kids' most iconic strengths. His deep, resonant bass voice became a signature element of their production, most notably in their breakthrough 2020 single God's Menu, where his delivery of the line "Cookin' like a chef, I'm a 5-star Michelin" became a viral sensation that defined the song's identity. But as the group's global popularity grew, Felix faced new physical challenges that tested his dedication to the team. In early 2022, JYP Entertainment announced that Felix had been diagnosed with a herniated disc in his back. This painful condition severely limited his physical activity, preventing him from performing the intense, high-impact choreography that Stray Kids is famous for. For a main dancer, being unable to perform is a deeply frustrating experience. During their second world tour, Maniac, Felix had to perform while sitting on a chair for parts of the concert, unable to join his members in the full choreography. During these shows, Felix was visibly emotional, crying on stage because he felt he was letting down his members and the fans. Despite the intense physical pain and the emotional frustration, Felix refused to sit out the tour entirely. He pushed through his recovery, participating in every way he physically could, showing a commitment to the group's collective presentation that went far beyond what was medically expected of him. Felix's loyalty is also expressed through his role as the group's emotional caretaker. He is widely known for his gentle personality, often baking brownies and cookies for the members, staff, and backup dancers as a way to show appreciation and relieve stress during long, exhausting promotions. This soft, nurturing demeanor acts as an essential counterweight to the intense, aggressive concept that Stray Kids projects on stage. His philanthropy also reflects a deep sense of responsibility. In early 2024, Felix donated 100 million won to the Korean Committee for UNICEF to help children in Laos, becoming the youngest member of the UNICEF Honors Club. This act of kindness brought immense positive attention to the group, showcasing how Felix's personal values align with his public platform. In interviews, Felix has consistently credited his members with giving him the strength to overcome his early difficulties in Korea, stating that he views Stray Kids not just as a career, but as his family. This emotional investment is what makes his loyalty so profound. He does not see his identity as separate from the group, but entirely bound up within it. The bond between Felix and Bang Chan remains one of the most defining relationships in Stray Kids. When Felix was eliminated during the survival show, Bang Chan wept openly, apologizing to him and saying, "I'm sorry, I should have helped you more." That moment created a lifetime commitment of mutual support. Bang Chan has described Felix as someone he feels a profound duty to protect, while Felix has consistently referred to Bang Chan as his lifeline in Korea. This mutual trust is why Felix is ranked at number 2. His loyalty is not just a professional agreement, it is a life-altering choice. He chose to leave his home country, learn a new language from scratch, endure the humiliation of public elimination, and perform through severe physical pain, all because of his belief in the group and the leader who welcomed him. Today, Felix is a global ambassador for Louis Vuitton and one of the most famous faces in the K-pop industry, yet he remains the same humble, hard-working individual who arrived in Seoul with nothing but a dream and a commitment to the brothers who helped him achieve it. Placing Felix at number 2 is a recognition of the immense sacrifice he made to become part of Stray Kids and the physical and emotional resilience he has shown to remain there. His loyalty is absolute, written in the physical toll of his back injury and the years he spent adapting to a foreign culture for the sake of the team. But as we reach the absolute summit of this ranking, only one member remains. The member sitting at number 1 is someone whose loyalty is of a different nature altogether, a loyalty that is not built on surviving exile or overcoming cultural barriers, but on acting as the co-architect of the group's entire existence, a creative and personal shield who has stood shoulder to shoulder with Bang Chan from the very beginning, sharing the heaviest burdens of leadership without ever demanding the title. Number 1, Changbin. When Bang Chan named Seo Changbin as the most loyal member of Stray Kids, it was a decision that surprised absolutely no one who has closely followed the history, the music, and the internal dynamics of this group. Born on August 11, 1999, in Yongin, South Korea, Changbin entered JYP Entertainment with a clear sense of musical purpose. Long before the public ever heard of Stray Kids, Changbin was already working closely with Bang Chan and Han Jisung under the name 3 Racha. Operating under the alias Spurb, Changbin spent 2016 and 2017 uploading raw, self-produced hip-hop tracks to SoundCloud, establishing the aggressive, self-assertive, and lyrically dense style that would become the blueprint for Stray Kids' entire discography. This pre-debut history is critical because it means Changbin did not simply join a pre-existing project, he was one of the co-architects who helped Bang Chan design the group's sonic foundation. He chose to align his musical future with Bang Chan's vision at a time when there were no guarantees of success, no debut date, and no corporate backing for their specific self-producing model. He invested his creative energy and his personal trust into a partnership that existed entirely outside JYP's traditional developmental structures, demonstrating a loyalty to Bang Chan and their shared vision before cameras were turned on. This creative alignment was tested immediately during the 2017 Mnet survival show. As the group's primary lyricist and rapper, Changbin was under immense pressure to deliver verses that would justify the self-producing concept JYP was experimenting with. During the evaluations, Park Jin-young frequently scrutinized the trainees' performances, but Changbin's position was never in doubt. His lyrical sharpness, breath control, and rapid-fire delivery made him an indispensable asset from day one. However, Changbin did not use his secure position to isolate himself or focus solely on his own survival. Instead, he functioned as a secondary leader within the group, helping less experienced trainees refine their timing, delivery, and stage presence. When Felix struggled with the Korean language, or when I.N faced harsh criticism for his vocal stability, Changbin was the one who sat down with them, offering practical advice and emotional support to ensure they remained focused. This willingness to share the burden of leadership and development showed that his loyalty was not just to his own career, but to the collective unit Bang Chan was trying to build. He recognized that Stray Kids could only succeed if every member made it across the finish line together, and he committed himself to making that happen. Beyond his creative contributions, Changbin's background adds another layer of significance to his loyalty. He comes from a supportive, affluent family that initially questioned his decision to pursue a career as an idol, suggesting instead that he focus on his studies. Trainee life, with its exhaustion and lack of financial stability, stood in contrast to the comfortable path his family could provide. By choosing to stay in the dorms, endure the grueling training schedules, and face the constant uncertainty of the entertainment industry, Changbin was making a conscious, deliberate sacrifice. He was rejecting an easy, comfortable life in favor of a grueling path because of his belief in the music he was making with Bang Chan and Han. This internal drive has remained consistent throughout his career. Since their official debut in March 2018, Changbin has remained the group's most consistent source of energy and stability. While other members have struggled with public controversies, physical injuries, or severe anxiety, Changbin has remained the steady, immovable center of the group, a reliable presence who has never once faltered or requested time away from the intense demands of their schedule. In the daily life of Stray Kids, Changbin's loyalty manifests as an emotional shield for the other members. Despite his aggressive rap persona on stage, off-stage he is known for his playful, affectionate nature, frequently initiating physical contact and using humor to diffuse tension. Behind the playfulness lies a mature, emotionally intelligent individual the members rely on in crisis. When Han Jae-sung experienced severe anxiety, or when Hyunjin faced public controversy, Changbin was the member who stepped in to offer a non-judgmental, stabilizing presence. He is the person the members turn to when they need to talk through a problem, knowing that Changbin will offer clear-headed, honest advice without letting his own ego or personal interests interfere. This role as the group's counselor is a demanding, often exhausting responsibility, but Changbin carries it without complaint, recognizing that the emotional health of the members is directly tied to the group's survival. His loyalty is not just about defending the group from external threats, it is about actively maintaining the internal peace and cohesion of the team. The creative relationship between Changbin and Bang Chan is the ultimate engine of Stray Kids' success. As the primary producers of 3 Racha, they have spent thousands of hours together in recording studios, debating arrangements, writing lyrics, and shaping the direction of every album. In this environment, Changbin serves as a vital sounding board and a source of constructive criticism for Bang Chan. The leader is known for his perfectionism, often working long hours and absorbing the stress of the group's production, which can lead to creative burnout. Changbin is one of the few people who can challenge Bang Chan's decisions, offer alternative perspectives, and force him to take a step back when he is pushing himself too hard. This relationship of mutual trust and respect is why Bang Chan ranks Changbin at the top. Changbin's loyalty is not passive agreement, it is the active, honest partnership of a co-creator who shares the weight of the group's future. Without Changbin's stability, creative output, and emotional support, the burden of leadership would have been far too heavy for Bang Chan to carry alone. Today, Stray Kids is a global powerhouse, selling out stadiums, topping Billboard charts, and collaborating with international artists. Changbin's fast, powerful rap style remains one of the group's defining musical signatures, recognized by critics and fans alike. Yet, despite the massive success and the individual recognition he has received, his focus remains entirely on the collective unit. He continues to invest his time, energy, and creativity into Stray Kids, showing the same dedication today that he did when he was uploading tracks to SoundCloud in an empty practice room. Placing Changbin at the absolute summit of this ranking is the ultimate acknowledgement of a simple truth: he is the foundation upon which Stray Kids was built. He has been Bang Chan's most reliable ally, the members' most trusted brother, and the group's most consistent creative force since the very beginning. His loyalty is not a performance, a reaction to a crisis, or a consequence of circumstance. It is the permanent, unshakable center of Stray Kids, the absolute certainty that has allowed them to rise to the top of the K-pop world and stay there together.